Hey, micro folks, it's Mr. Hooker, and here we are for Elasticity Part 2. So let's get into this. It's now time for price elasticity of supply. This is the opposite side of price elasticity of demand. This is the firm side. It measures the seller's responsiveness to price changes. Um, Basically, everything we did for demand, it is now the same. It is just supply. So you have elastic supply. Producers are responsive to a price change. Inelastic supply, producers are not responsive to changes in price. Um, and so the formula E sub S is how we will notate this. It is the percentage change in quantity supplied to product X divided by the percentage change in the price of product X. Once again, you still have to use the midpoint formula. So, Q1 minus Q2 divided by Q1 plus Q2 divided by 2 divided by P1 plus P2. P1 minus P2 divided by P1 plus P2 divided by 2. So I'm still going to do that. So if E sub S is greater than 1, it is elastic. Equal to 1, it is unit elastic. Less than 1, it is inelastic. Also, if it is equal to 0, it is perfectly inelastic. So we have one basic determinant here, and that is going to be time. As your primary determinant of elasticity of supply, there are 3 time periods we shall consider. 1, immediate market period. 2, the short run. And 3, the long run. So right now, over the next month or so, and then long run, or over the next few weeks, let's say. Um, the next few weeks or month, and then long run. Um, so perfectly inelastic supply is just going to be a vertical piece, vertical line, just like it was for demand, and then demand will move along that line, determining price. So wherever demand falls, that's what's going to be priced for that. So that one, so this one right here, that is the immediate market supply, and that's the immediate market period. It is perfectly inelastic. Basically, what you have for that is supply is fixed, and then demand just basically is going to be on that, whatever we have at that one. That's the immediate market period. There's nothing we can change. We can't change contracts. We can't change anything. It is what we have in the store right now. It is all we can do. Now, the short run is a little more elastic, but not greatly. Notice it's still kind of steep. That is because we can get our hands on some stuff, but not a lot of stuff. Um, and so we can change a few things, but not greatly. And so that is going to be the short run. Now, the long run, we can completely change suppliers. We can change whatever the heck we want with all that, really. Um, so it's more elastic than the short run. Notice it's not perfectly elastic, but it is highly elastic. We can change suppliers if our suppliers aren't really doing the job for us. We can change whatever we need to change with all of this to get things done so that we meet the needs of our customers. And that way, if demand changes, notice the price does not change very much. So that's a large change in demand and a small change in price. So some applications of this. Antiques have a very inelastic supply. It's pretty much perfectly inelastic if you think about it. They were created 25 years ago or more. So basically, there's nothing you can do with that. You can't make new antiques. Reproductions are a more elastic supply. You can build new reproductions of antiques. If all of a sudden people start falling in love with a type of antique, we can build reproductions. We just can't build new antiques. And gold prices are pretty volatile depending on what happens with interest rates and what happens with other things in the money markets. But gold is still somewhat inelastic. Cross price elasticity of demand. So we did substitutes and complements there in chapter 3, and we talked about them. But here is the time to talk about how do you know that it is a substitute or complement. And you do that with cross price elasticity, which is notated EXY, E sub XY. Percentage change in quantity demanded for good X divided by percentage change in price of good Y. You do not have to use midpoint formula for this because it's two different goods. So you do that. It measures the responsiveness of purchase of one good to changes in the price of another good. They're substitutes if elasticity is positive, complements if it's negative, independent if it's zero or near zero. So if you think back to how this went, when we had substitute goods, if the price of one good went up, the demand for its substitute good also went up. So, name brand and generic, if the price of Tylenol went up, the demand for the generic good went up. So that's how this actually works out. Complementary goods, peanut butter and jelly. If the price of peanut butter goes up, the demand for jelly goes down. That's a negative relationship, and therefore the cross price elasticity is negative. And that's how you get that relationship there. Applications: should a company change a price? If you change the price, what's actually going to happen? And so, those are the kind of things we're going to look at with that. So, if I change the price, what happens to me? What happens to my competitors? Am I actually going to be helping my competitor more than me? Those kinds of things. And should the government allow a merger? We'll get into that more in future chapters in Module 3 about mergers and how all that works. So, cross price elasticity between education spending and increases in the price of food. So notice Tanzania, it's negative. So these are complements. That's like negative 2.5. Benin, negative 2.3 or so, 2.4, 2.3. Vietnam, close to like 2.1, 2.2. Ecuador, about 2.1 probably. Zimbabwe, right at 0.2, negative 2. Russia, about 0.08, 0.18, 0.19, somewhere in there. Argentina, a little less than that. South Korea, Japan, the U.S., somewhere in there. And that's why we do like free lunch programs, free lunch, free breakfast programs, free food programs at school are based on these studies. Income elasticity of demand, E sub I, percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in income. Once again, you do not have to use the midpoint formula. And what does this do? This measures the responsiveness of buyers to changes in their income. So how responsive are you to the idea that you got paid more or your income has increased? Normal good if elasticity is positive, inferior good if elasticity is negative. Remember the normal and inferior good piece. I mentioned the whole idea that, like, if you were the normal broke college student, you probably consume more inferior goods than the average bear. Some extra insights that I have learned through different studies and on income elasticity. If a good has a positive income elasticity but is less than 1, it's what we call a normal necessary good. If E sub I is greater than is greater than 1, then the good is a luxury. So if it's positive but less than 1, it's a necessary good. Greater than 1, it's a luxury. I had a table on this in another text also. Beer falls into the normal necessary good range. Is the good I remembered most often, the most off of that one. So there you go. Some other ones, high income elasticities are most affected by a recession, which makes sense because they would be luxuries. And we talked about that earlier, that luxuries people are going to lay off of anyway. And you would, I mean, you don't need your luxuries. They're nice, but you don't need them. Lower negative income elasticity, not affected that much by a recession. You would actually buy more of the negative elasticities than you would anything else because basically those are inferior goods. So as everything dies off, you're going to buy those negative elasticity things there because that's the inferior goods. And then low income ones, those are necessities. So you're going to do that. So cross price elasticity, quantity demanded of W changes in the same direction as change in price in Z. They're substitutes. Negative quantity demanded of X changes the opposite direction from the change in price of Y. They're complements. Income elasticity, they're positive. Quantity demand of the product changes in the same direction the change in income. It's normal or superior. Negative income elasticity, quantity demand of the product changes the opposite direction from the change of income. It is inferior. Income elasticity demand for gasoline. In India, gasoline is a luxury. Iran, it's also a luxury. Venezuela, it's still slightly a luxury. Mexico, it's slightly a luxury. China, it's a normal, necessary good. Nigeria, normal, necessary. Brazil, normal, necessary. US, normal, necessary. Saudi Arabia, normal, necessary. UAE, and Russia, also normal, necessary goods. Last thing up, why different consumers pay different prices. This is based on price elasticity. It's called price discrimination. You, as students, happen to fall into one of the few main groups of price discrimination. Students, seniors, veterans, teachers, sometimes. Those are your main groups for that. They mentioned business travelers as well, as far as air travel. Kids, that's another one. Families. So basically, what happens if you have price discrimination? You need a few things. You need to be able to easily change the price of the good. You need to have two groups with different price elasticities, and you need to be able to prevent resale of the good. If you have those three things, you can price discriminate and basically gather more, gather more sales by charging two different groups, two different prices. One that has a high elasticity, and one that has a low elasticity. Two different prices, and it works for businesses. So basically, students who are going to be elastic buyers, and then other people who are going to be um, inelastic buyers. You're going to basically charge the students a lower price and try to gain students' purchases that way. I have heard that like grocery stores are doing student discounts. I don't get that because you could resell groceries and stuff like that, but I guess they assume that you won't. I don't get that. Gyms, theaters, restaurants, they all offer student discounts and all of that. So there's a number of places that will offer those things. All right, that is all. Y'all have a great time. We will see you in chapter 7.